Hey guys, tonight we are traveling to a city of art, genius, and shadowed alleys, a place where beauty is woven into the very fabric of life. We are heading to Renaissance Florence, to a small, quiet workshop where the scent of wool, beeswax, and charcoal from a pressing iron hangs in the air. We'll meet an old master of his craft, a tailor whose best days are behind him until a mysterious knock on his door late one night changes everything. Are you ready in your warm bed? I hope you are settled in and comfortable. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's always so lovely seeing where you all are listening from, so feel free to leave your city or country and the local time in the comments below. It weaves a wonderful invisible thread between all of us. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are Maestro Antonio, and the world outside your small shop is the city of Florence, a jewel on the river Arno. The hour is late, well past midnight, and the city has finally fallen into a semblance of quiet. The boisterous shouts from the taverns have faded, and the only sounds that reach you are the distant chime of a church bell from across the river and the gentle sigh of the wind in your narrow lane. Your shop, your bottega, is on the ground floor of a tall, leaning building in the Oltrarno district, the Artisans' Quarter, a labyrinth of streets where the real work of Florence happens. The air in your workshop smells of your life's work. It is a complex perfume of steamed wool, of the sharp tang of dye, of the sweet, comforting scent of the beeswax you use to strengthen your thread. Your shop is a small, cavernous space. Great bolts of cloth, somber wools, and rich velvets are stacked against one wall, their colors muted in the flickering candlelight. Paper patterns, the ghosts of past commissions, hang from wooden pegs. On your large, worn cutting table, the tools of your trade lie sleeping. Heavy iron shears, chalk for marking, and needles of all sizes tucked into a velvet cushion that is shaped like a small, plump tomato. You are an old man now. Your fingers, though still nimble, are gnarled with arthritis, and your eyes, once sharp enough to execute the most demanding stitches, now rely on thick spectacles. There was a time when your name was spoken with respect in the halls of the great Florentine families. You were a master of the Arte di Calimala, the powerful guild of cloth merchants and finishers. You dressed Florentine bankers and silk merchants in fabrics so fine they seemed woven from morning mist. Art historians of the future will debate whether the grand portraits by the great masters accurately depict the clothing of the era or if they were idealized, but you know the truth. You created those idealized forms. You knew how to cut a doublet to make a man's shoulders seem broader, how to drape a sleeve to make a gesture seem more elegant. You were an artist whose medium was cloth and thread. But those days are long past. Your wealthy patrons have either passed on or now seek out younger tailors with newer ideas. Your beloved wife, Bianca, whose laughter once filled this dusty shop, is gone, leaving a silence that even the busiest day cannot fill. Now your work consists mostly of mending, of letting out the waistcoats of merchants grown stout, of patching the worn elbows of a scholar's tunic. The work is steady, but the artistry is gone. Tonight, you are finishing your simple evening routine. You have swept the scraps of cloth from the stone floor, You have banked the coals in the small brazier you use for heating your pressing irons. You have enjoyed a meager supper of hard bread, a few olives, and a small cup of rough red wine. You run a hand over a bolt of deep blue wool, its texture as familiar as your own skin. Hanging by the doorpost is a small red coral horn, a cornicello, a charm to ward off the malocchio, the evil eye. It was a gift from Bianca, a small concession to folk belief in a city obsessed with science and art. It has hung there for 40 years, a silent, superstitious guardian. You trim the wick of your last candle, preparing to extinguish it and head to your small, simple bed in the room at the back of the shop. The day is done. The city is asleep. Your world has become very small, very quiet, contained within these four walls. And then you hear it. Knock, knock, knock. The sound is loud, sharp, and insistent on the heavy oak door of your shop. It is so unexpected that you freeze, your hand hovering over the candle's flame. No one comes to your shop at this hour. Honest folk are in their beds, and the city watch deals with those who are not. A flicker of fear, the unwelcome companion of old age and solitude, runs through you. Who could possibly be knocking on the door of an old tailor after midnight? Knock. 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 This time the sound is more demanding, impatient. It is not the sound of a drunkard who has lost his way. It is the sound of someone with a purpose. You shuffle to the door, your soft leather shoes, making no sound on the stone floor. You press your ear against the thick wood, but you can hear nothing beyond the door but the sighing of the wind. You think of leaving it, of pretending you are asleep, of letting the mystery remain a mystery. But you were once Maestro Antonio, and your pride, though old and sleepy, is not yet dead. Curiosity, its ever-present companion, gets the better of you. Your hand trembles slightly as you lift the heavy iron bar that secures the door. You draw back the two thick bolts, the sound of the metal grinding in the silence of the shop seeming impossibly loud. You turn the iron handle, and the door groans open on its old hinges, opening a crack into the dark, narrow lane. A gust of cool night air swirls in, making your candle flicker wildly. Standing on your doorstep is a figure. It is impossible to tell if it is a man or a woman, for they are wrapped from head to foot in a heavy, dark cloak, the hood pulled low, completely obscuring their face in shadow. In the gloom of the unlit alley, the figure seems less like a person and more like a piece of the night itself that has detached and come to your door. There is no finery visible, no hint of wealth, but the way the figure stands, still and erect, speaks of an undeniable authority. There is no servant, no horse, no carriage, just this solitary, silent figure. "Maestro Antonio?" a voice says from within the depths of the hood. The voice is quiet, cultured, and impossible to place. It is a voice that holds no age, no regional accent. It is as smooth and unreadable as dark water. You are so taken aback that you can only nod. "I am told," the voice continues, "that you are the finest tailor in all of Florence. It is a statement you have not heard in 20 years. It awakens a long dormant flicker of your old self." "I was once," you reply, your voice a rusty whisper. "My work is simpler now." "I have no need of simple work," the stranger says. "I have need of a master. May I come in?" The request hangs in the air, a challenge to the quiet safety of your world. Every cautious instinct tells you to close the door, to bolt it, to bar it, and to retreat to the safety of your bed. But the words, "I have need of a master," echo in the lonely chambers of your heart. It has been so long since anyone has had need of the master. Without another thought, you pull the door open wider and step back, allowing the mysterious figure to cross the threshold, bringing the deep, dark mystery of the Florentine night into the flickering candlelight of your small, quiet life. You close and bolt the heavy oak door behind your visitor, the sound of the metal sliding home echoing in the sudden, profound silence. The small, flickering candlelight of your workshop seems to shrink in on itself, pushing back against the imposing, cloaked presence that now stands in the center of your world. The figure does not remove their hood. The shadows within it remain as deep and unreadable as a well. "Please," you say, your voice a little unsteady as you gesture towards a simple wooden stool, the only seating you have apart from your own work chair. "Sit." "I prefer to stand," the quiet, ageless voice replies. "My business will not take long." The figure moves towards your large cutting table, their cloak sweeping silently over the stone floor. They place their hands on the worn surface of the wood, the only part of them visible being long, slender fingers in dark leather gloves. "I require a suit of clothes, maestro," the stranger says, getting straight to the point. "A complete ensemble, a doublet, hose, and a traveling cloak." You nod slowly. This is your trade, a familiar request. "For what occasion?" you ask. "A wedding. A formal presentation at court. The cut depends on the purpose." "The occasion," the voice says after a slight pause, "is a long and important journey. The cut must be of the highest quality. It must allow for freedom of movement, yet possess a simple, undeniable elegance. It must be a suit that looks as appropriate in a prince's court as it would on a lonely road at midnight." You begin to calculate in your head. It is a demanding request, the kind you used to receive often. It would require your best work, your most complex patterns. Such a suit, you begin, would take time, several weeks. There are fittings, adjustments. "There will be no fittings," the stranger interrupts, their voice still quiet, but with an edge of steel that cuts through your protests. "And it must be ready by dawn." The words hang in the air between you, so utterly preposterous that you almost laugh. Dawn. It is already past midnight. To create a full suit of bespoke clothing from scratch in the space of a few hours is not just impossible, it is the request of a madman. "Signore," you say, a touch of your old master's authority returning to your voice. "You do not understand. What you ask is a fantasy. The finest masters in Florence, even in their youth, with the full workshop of apprentices, could not accomplish such a task. It cannot be done." For a moment, the stranger is silent. You think they will turn and leave, their foolish errand over. Instead, one of the gloved hands reaches into the depths of their cloak and produces a leather bag, which they place on your table. It does not land with the soft thud of a few coins. It lands with a deep, heavy, resonant clink that speaks of significant weight. "Perhaps this will aid your fantasy," the stranger says. With a hesitant hand, you pull open the drawstring of the bag. Your breath catches in your throat. inside, gleaming in the soft candlelight, is not the familiar silver of everyday currency. It is gold. Dozens and dozens of heavy, beautiful Florentine florins, each one stamped with the city's lily and the image of John the Baptist. It is a fortune, more money than you have seen in 20 years, enough to live out the rest of your days in comfort without ever having to pick up a needle again. You stare at the gold, mesmerized by its warm, seductive glow. It is a powerful argument against the impossible, but it is the stranger's next action that truly captures your soul. From beneath their cloak, they produce a bolt of cloth. They unroll a length of it across your cutting table, and as they do, the candlelight seems to dim, as if all the light in the room is being drawn into the fabric itself. You have been a tailor your entire life. You have worked with the finest wools from England, the most luxurious silks from the East, the richest velvets from Genoa. Your hands know the language of textiles better than your own native tongue. But you have never ever seen or felt anything like this. The fabric is a blue so deep and dark, it makes the midnight sky outside your window look pale. It is the color of the void, of the space between the stars. It feels impossibly fine, softer than the most delicate silk, yet with the weight and structure of the finest wool. And woven into this impossible blue are tiny glittering specks. At first, you think they are silver thread, a common technique for luxury cloth, but as you lean closer, you see they are not thread. They are tiny, multifaceted points of light that seem to wink and gleam with a life of their own, catching the candlelight and fracturing it into miniature constellations right there on your table. It looks as if someone has taken a piece of the night sky, stars and all, and woven it into a bolt of cloth. Textile historians and curators of the future will debate the lost techniques for creating certain legendary fabrics mentioned in old documents. Cloths of gold that never tarnished, silks that changed color with the light. But this fabric on your table is beyond any of those legends. It seems not to have been made by human hands at all. The cloth, you whisper, your voice hoarse with awe. You reach out a trembling finger and touch it. It is cool to the touch, and the surface seems to shift and shimmer under your fingers, the tiny stars winking at you. "It requires a master's hand," the stranger says, their voice a little softer now, sensing they have found their true lure. The gold was a bribe for your tired old body, but this fabric, this is a challenge to your immortal soul as a craftsman. To work with such a material, to be the one to give it form and shape. It is a temptation you cannot resist. An apprentice to be accepted into the guild must create a capolavoro, a masterpiece, to prove his skill. You have not made a true masterpiece in decades. This cloth, you realize, demands one. It would be your final, greatest work. The measurements, you ask, your mind already racing, your hands already itching to hold your shears, to feel this celestial cloth yield to your skill. The stranger places a small, rolled-up piece of parchment on the table. You unroll it. On it is a series of precise, elegant lines and numbers, a complete set of measurements for a man of average height, but with broad shoulders and a lean waist. The instructions are clear. There is no name, no client to speak of, only the pure abstract form of a perfect suit. You look from the gold to the impossible fabric, to the measurements. Your practical mind screams at you. It is a fool's errand. You are an old man. Your hands are stiff. Your eyes are tired. You will fail, and you will have worked through your last night on earth for nothing. Your dear Bianca would have patted your cheek and told you to go to bed and forget this madness. But then you look at the cloth again. You see the stars winking within its deep blue folds. And the artist inside you, the maestro who has been sleeping for so long, begins to stir. To turn down this chance, to let this fabric leave your shop untouched, would be a greater failure than trying and failing. It would be a betrayal of your entire life's work. You slowly, deliberately push the bag of gold to one side. You pick up your heavy iron shears from their resting place. The cool metal feels solid and familiar in your hand. You look at the cloaked figure, and though you cannot see their face, you feel a sense of their satisfaction. "I will return for it at dawn," the stranger says. You do not reply. You do not need to. You have already accepted the The stranger gives a slight, formal bow of their cowled head and sweeps silently out of your shop, closing the door behind them and leaving you alone. Alone, with a king's ransom in gold, a set of measurements, and a bolt of cloth woven from the night sky, and an impossible deadline. Dawn. The master's great and final test has begun. The heavy oak door settles into its frame, and the silence that descends is different from the quiet of a moment ago. Before, it was the empty silence of a lonely evening. Now, it is a silence charged with purpose, with the weight of an impossible promise. You stand alone in the flickering candlelight, the master of your small universe once more. Your gaze falls upon the two objects on your cutting table that have upended your world, the bag of gold and the bolt of starlight cloth. Your first action is one of pure, instinctual craftsmanship. You reach out, take the heavy leather bag of Florence, and without a second glance, you place it on the floor, tucked safely away under the table. The gold is a consequence, not a cause. It is a vulgar necessity. The true prize, the thing that now commands every fiber of your being, is the cloth. Your hands, wrinkled and stiff with age, seem to shed their years as you run them over the celestial fabric. It is cool and impossibly smooth, and the tiny, winking lights within its weave seem to pulse in time with your own quickening heartbeat, to cut into such a material with your everyday patterns. The simple, forgiving shapes you use for mending and alterations would be a sacrilege. This cloth does not call for competence. It demands mastery. It demands the ghost of the tailor you once were. You know what you must do. You shuffle to the back of your workshop, to a large, dark, iron-banded wooden chest that has sat unopened for so long it is covered in a soft gray blanket of dust. This chest holds your past. It holds your legacy. You lift the heavy lid, its hinges groaning in protest. A scent wafts out, the scent of your entire life. Dried paper, the faint, sweet smell of cedar wood used to ward off moths, and the ghost of your wife, Bianca's lavender sachets. Inside, nestled carefully together, are dozens of rolled-up paper scrolls. These are your master patterns, the intricate, secret architecture behind every masterpiece that ever left your shop. The rise of sophisticated, multi-piece paper patterns was what allowed the tailors of your generation to create the fitted, sculptural clothing that defined the Florentine style. These patterns are your true wealth. With a reverence you haven't felt in years, you begin to unroll them on the floor. Each one is a memory. Your fingers trace the elegant curve of a sleeve. This was for the young Medici banker's wedding doublet, you remember. He had the shoulders of a boy, and I made him look like a captain of men. You unroll another, a sweeping complex pattern for a cloak. For the envoy from Milan, a man who needed to make an impression of effortless power. Each line, each notch, each annotation in your spidery handwriting is a testament to a problem solved, a challenge met, a piece of beauty created. You retrieve the parchment with the stranger's measurements. You study the numbers, your mind already translating the two-dimensional figures into a three-dimensional form. A man of good height, lean but strong. The suit must be elegant, but not ostentatious, practical, but not plain. You select a set of patterns for a doublet. You designed 30 years ago, known for its clean lines and the surprising freedom of movement it allowed. For the hose, you choose a pattern that relies on a clever diagonal cut of the fabric, the bias cut, to achieve a perfect, wrinkle-free fit. Fashion historians and reconstructionists of the future will debate how tailors of this period achieved such a perfect fit without modern tools or elastic materials. You know the secret lies here, in the genius of the cut, in understanding how to make a non-stretch fabric curve and cling to the human form. You carry the chosen patterns to your cutting table, your heart now beating with a steady, powerful rhythm. The fatigue of old age has vanished, burned away by the bright, hot fire of a rediscovered purpose. Now comes the moment of truth. You take the bolt of starlight cloth and, with a deep, steadying breath, you unroll its full length across the table. It flows like a river of liquid night, the tiny stars within it glittering as if the candle flame were a sun. You smooth the fabric with the palms of your hands, feeling its strange, wonderful texture. It is time to mark the cloth. You retrieve a small muslin bag filled with powdered chalk, a tool for the technique known as pouncing. You lay your first paper pattern piece, the front panel of the doublet, onto the dark fabric. Using a small, sharp awl, you carefully prick tiny, near invisible holes along the pattern's lines. Then you take the chalk bag and gently tap, or pounce, it over the pattern. When you carefully lift the paper away, a perfect, ghostly outline of the piece remains on the cloth in a fine, dotted line of white dust. You work with a focused intensity, laying out each piece of the suit, the front and back panels, the sleeves, the collar, the complex multi-part pattern for the hose, the great sweeping trapezoids of the cloak. You work like a master mapmaker, fitting the pieces together on the cloth to ensure not a single scrap of this precious material is wasted. The table soon becomes a celestial map, a constellation of white dusted shapes on a field of midnight blue. All the pieces are marked. The time for hesitation is over. You pick up your shears. They are heavy, made of fine Florentine steel, the blades long and wicked sharp. You have had them since you were an apprentice, and they feel like an extension of your own hand. You say a small, silent prayer, a habit you've never lost. You ask for a steady hand and a true eye. You position the tips of the shears at the start of the first chalk line. For a single, breathless moment, you pause. This is the act from which there is no return. The moment the sacred cloth ceases to be a whole and begins its journey to becoming a garment. You close your eyes, take a deep breath, and you make the first cut. The sound is not what you expect. When cutting thick wool or velvet, there is a rough, tearing sound. But these shears slide through the starlight cloth with a soft, clean, whispering shiss, a sound like a sigh. The cut is perfect, clean, and true. A feeling of profound rightness floods through you. The cloth does not fight you. It yields, as if it wants to be cut, as if it knows its purpose. Buoyed by this small miracle, you continue. Your movements growing more confident. The shears whisper through the fabric, following the ghostly chalk lines with unerring precision. You work steadily, your entire being focused on the task, the world outside your shop, the dark alleys of Florence, the sleeping city, your own lonely life. All of it ceases to exist. There is only you, the candlelight, the whisper of your shears, and the slow, deliberate birth of a masterpiece. Piece by piece, the suit emerges. The shapes lie upon your table, a puzzle of dark, star-dusted forms. The doublet front and back, the elegant tapered sleeves, the many components of the close-fitting hose, the great dramatic pieces of the cloak. It is all there, a suit in its component parts, waiting for the thread that will bind it together, that will give it life. The preparation is complete. The long, sleepless night of sewing awaits you. The last piece of the celestial puzzle is laid out, its chalk-dusted outline a pale ghost on the dark fabric. The city of Florence is deep in the arms of the night, a profound silence, broken only by the distant, lonely chime of a bell marking the 3rd hour after midnight. Your small workshop is an island of flickering candlelight in a vast, sleeping ocean. The time for cutting is over. The time for building, for joining, for creation has begun. You select your needle. It is a fine, slender needle of high-quality Spanish steel, thin enough to pass through the finest fabric without leaving a mark, yet strong enough not to bend. You take a length of dark blue silk thread, the closest color you have to the impossible blue of the cloth, and you run it across a small, round cake of beeswax. The wax coats the thread, strengthening it, smoothing it, preventing it from tangling. It is a simple, ancient ritual, one of the first things your own master taught you as a boy. You take the 2 front panels of the doublet. You align their edges with the precision of a master architect, aligning 2 great stones. You make the first stitch. You use a back stitch, the strongest and most reliable of all seams, each stitch looping back on the last to create an unbroken, resilient line. The fine needle slides through the starlight cloth with an unnatural ease, as if the fabric were parting willingly to accept the thread. The whisper of the silk thread following the needle is the only sound in the room. Stitch by stitch, seam by seam, the garment begins to take shape under your expert hands. The hours melt away. You are no longer an old man in a lonely shop. You are Maestro Antonio, again lost in the sacred geometry of your craft. Your mind is clear. your focus absolute. You join the back of the doublet to the front, the strong, straight seams creating the foundation. You set the sleeves, a complex process of easing a curved edge into a straight one, a test of skill that separates a true master from an amateur. The starlight cloth behaves perfectly, holding its shape, its fine, firm weave a joy to work with. As you sew, you find yourself thinking of the stranger, of the person who will wear this suit on their long and important journey. And without conscious thought, you begin to sew a prayer into the seams. It is an old folk belief, a quiet superstition among makers of things, that your intentions can be woven into your work. With every pull of the thread, you stitch a silent wish for the wearer's safety. With every knot, you tie in a hope for a smooth path. You are not just building a suit, you are building a blessing, a talisman of fine wool and silk. But the night is long, and you are no longer a young man. As the 4th hour chimes, a deep, bone-weary fatigue begins to creep into your limbs. Your shoulders ache. The candlelight begins to dance and blur before your tired eyes. Your fingers, which had been so nimble, begin to grow stiff and clumsy. You make a small, crooked stitch and have to unpick it, a frustrating and time-consuming task. A wave of doubt, cold and dispiriting, washes over you. The dawn seems an impossible deadline. The task is too great. Your old body is failing you. You put down your needle and rub your burning eyes with the heels of your hands. You lean back in your chair, your spirit sagging. It was foolishness. You think the pride of an old man, a final, foolish vanity. You cannot do it, and then something changes. It is not a sound, it is not a sight, it is a feeling. A subtle shift in the atmosphere of the room. A gentle warmth spreads across your aching shoulders, as if a soft woolen shawl has been draped around you. The wildly flickering candle flame on your table suddenly steadies, its light becoming clear, soft, and bright. You pick up your needle, and your fumbling fingers are suddenly steady again, the stiffness gone. You feel a presence in the room with you. It is not frightening, it is a presence as familiar and comforting as your own heartbeat. You know, with a certainty that defies all logic, that you are no longer alone. Your Bianca is here. You cannot see her, but you can feel her, a quiet strength beside you, just as she was for 40 years. Social historians who study domestic life in your era will debate the extent of women's contributions to the professional guilds. They will see the records of the all-male arti and assume women had no role. But you know the truth. Bianca, with her clever fingers and her unerring eye for a perfect hem, was your silent partner. She was the soul of this workshop, the uncredited artist behind so many of your finest creations. You can almost hear her gentle humming tune, the one she always hummed when she was working on the most delicate, finishing stitches. You can almost feel her pointing to a solution for a difficult collar, her insight always cutting through your most tangled problems. The memory, so sharp and clear, does not bring you sadness, it brings you strength. Her love is a tangible thing, a quiet miracle in your dusty workshop. With this renewed spirit, you set back to work. But you are not just working with your own skill now, you are working with the echo of hers. The work flows with a miraculous, peaceful efficiency. You begin the buttonholes on the doublet, a true test of a tailor's art. You use a fine, tightly spun silk thread and create dozens of tiny, perfect stitches, each one a testament to precision, forming a neat, strong border that will never fray. You move on to the hose, joining the complex pieces with strong, flat-felled seams that will be smooth and comfortable against the skin. You attach the waistband, your needle flying with a speed and accuracy you haven't possessed in years. The suit is no longer an assortment of flat pieces of cloth. It is becoming a three-dimensional object, a sculpture taking shape under your hands. The starlight fabric drapes and falls with an elegance that seems to defy gravity. The hours before dawn, the deepest and darkest part of the night, pass in a state of grace. You are no longer tired. You are carried along by the rhythm of the work, by the memory of love, by the magic of the starlight cloth. You are a conduit, a vessel through which a masterpiece is being born. As the first, faint, pearlescent hint of gray begins to soften the black square of your workshop window, you look down at your work. The main construction is done. The doublet is whole, its form elegant and strong. The hose are complete, their shape perfect. The great, sweeping cloak is pieced together, waiting only for its lining and clasp. The impossible task now seems possible. The race against the dawn is a race you might just win, and you know you have not done it alone. The first hint of dawn is a tender, bruised purple stripe along the eastern horizon, visible between the tall, leaning buildings outside your window. The deepest part of the night has passed, and your race against the coming day enters its final, crucial stage. The body of the suit is assembled, a dark, star-dusted silhouette lying on your work table, but you know, with the deep instinctual knowledge of a master, that the soul of a garment is found in its finishing. It is the hidden details, the perfect lining, the meticulous pressing that elevate craftsmanship into art. You feel no fatigue now. The ghostly, loving presence of your Bianca and the sheer exhilaration of the work itself has filled you with a strange, boundless energy. You turn to the lining. A suit of this quality cannot be lined with coarse wool or simple linen. From another old chest, you pull a bolt of the finest black linen, as soft as a sigh, which you had saved for a lord's funeral shroud that was never commissioned. It will provide a stark, simple, and comfortable interior to the celestial wonder of the outer cloth. You lay the black linen out, and using the same master patterns, you quickly and confidently cut the lining pieces. You work with a newfound speed, your hands sure and steady. You begin to sew the lining, your needle and thread a blur of efficient motion. You assemble the inner shell of the doublet and the cloak, your stitches small, even, and strong. Then comes the delicate process of marrying the lining to the main garment. You turn the sleeves inside out, you align the collars, and with thousands of tiny, invisible fell stitches, you secure the two layers together. From the outside, the stitching is imperceptible. From the inside, the garment is as beautiful and well finished as it is on the exterior. It is a secret perfection, a quality known only to the tailor and the wearer. With the lining in place, you turn to the brazier. You stoke the embers, which have been patiently waiting all night, until they glow a soft, cherry red. You place your heavy, sad irons, solid blocks of iron, with smooth, polished faces among the coals to heat. Soon they are ready, radiating a dry, intense heat. Conservators at museums of the future will marvel at and debate the methods used to create the perfectly smooth, sculptural finish on surviving Renaissance garments, a finish achieved without modern steam presses. You know the secret. It is patience, pressure, and heat. You take a damp linen cloth and your first hot iron. You start with the main seams of the doublet, pressing each one open, the iron hissing softly as it turns the moisture from the cloth into a small puff of steam. The steam, the heat, and the weight of the iron work together, forcing the woolen fibers of the starlight cloth to yield, to lie perfectly flat. You work your way across the entire suit, pressing every single seam, every dart, every curve. It is a slow, methodical, and physically demanding process. The workshop fills with the clean, earthy smell of hot iron, steamed linen, and warm wool. You press the collar into a perfect, crisp curve. You press the shoulders, giving them a proud, noble shape. You press the hem of the great cloak into a sharp, flawless line. Under your hands, the suit transforms from a well-sewn object into a piece of sculpture. It now has form, structure, and an undeniable presence. The sky outside is now a soft, rosy pink. The dawn is not coming. It is here. You have only moments left. The final details remain. The fastenings. The suit requires points, the small tipped laces used to tie the hose to the doublet, and buttons for the front of the doublet itself. You quickly craft the points from the same starlight cloth, reinforcing them with an inner layer of linen and sewing tiny, polished metal tips or aglets onto the ends. But the buttons, they must be special. Your mind, guided by a fond memory, goes to a small carved wooden box tucked away on a high shelf. It was Bianca's box of treasures. You retrieve it, blowing off a layer of dust. You open the lid. There, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, is a small set of silver buttons. They are not grand or ostentatious. They are small, simple, and exquisitely crafted, each one cast in the shape of a perfect, slender crescent moon. Bianca had bought them from a traveling silversmith years ago, saving them for a special occasion that never came. They are perfect. They are her final contribution to this magical night. With a fine silk thread, your fingers flying, you sew each of the 12 silver moon buttons down the front of the doublet. You work with the speed you thought long lost, your stitches tiny and strong. The silver moons gleam against the deep, star-dusted blue of the cloth, a beautiful, celestial harmony. You create the corresponding buttonholes on the other side, each one a masterpiece of tight, decorative stitching. It is done. As the first direct ray of golden sunlight shines through your dusty workshop window, you take the final stitch. You stand back from your work table. The suit is complete. You pick up the doublet. You hold it up in the morning light. It is, without exaggeration, the most beautiful thing you have ever made. It is a triumph. The cut is perfect. The lines are flawless. It hangs with a weight and grace that seems almost alive. The starlight cloth drinks in the morning sun, and the tiny glittering specks within it seem to ignite, not with the cold fire of the candle, but with a warm, golden light of their own. The silver moon buttons trail down the front like a path of captured moonlight. You gently place the finished garments on your tailor's dummy, the wooden mannequin you use for display. First the hose, then the magnificent doublet, and finally, you drape the great sweeping cloak over its shoulders. It is no longer just a suit of clothes, it is an apparition. It is a piece of the night sky tailored for a king, or an angel, or something in between, holding this creation, this culmination of your life's skill, and a night of impossible, miraculous work. You do not feel like a tired old man. You do not feel the ache in your back or the stiffness in your fingers. You feel like Maestro Antonio, the master tailor of Florence. You have passed the test. You have created your final and greatest capolavoro. You stand back, a feeling of deep, profound, and peaceful satisfaction washing over you. You have done the impossible. You have raced the dawn and won. And now, in the quiet of the morning, surrounded by the familiar, comforting smells of your workshop, your masterpiece waits, a silent, shimmering testament to the magic of a master's hands, ready for the return of its mysterious owner. The sun is fully risen now, a benevolent golden eye peering into your dusty workshop. The sounds of Florence waking up drift in from the alley. The distant rumble of an ox cart on the great Ponte Vecchio bridge, the cheerful shout of a fruit seller, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer from a nearby forge. Your small, quiet world is once again being surrounded by the bustling, vibrant life of the city. You stand in a sunbeam, looking at the finished suit on its mannequin, a silent, shimmering sentinel in the heart of your shop. You have done the impossible, and now you wait. You don't have to wait long. Just as the church bells begin to chime, for the first hour of the working day, you hear a soft, polite knock on your door. It is a different sound from the insistent, demanding knock of the previous night. This is a sound of quiet confidence of an appointment being kept. You unbolt the door and pull it open. The stranger stands there, a dark, cloaked figure against the bright morning light. They step inside, and you close the door behind them, sealing the two of you once more in your private world. The stranger's hooded head turns towards the center of the room, and for the first time, you hear them make an involuntary sound, a soft, quiet intake of breath, a gasp of pure, unadulterated admiration. They glide silently towards the mannequin, circling it slowly, their gaze taking in every detail of your work. They do not touch it at first, merely observing. They see the perfect, clean lines of the doublet, the flawless fit of the hose, the elegant, dramatic sweep of the cloak. They see the way the starlight cloth seems to have a life of its own, absorbing the morning light and giving it back as a soft, internal glow. They see the small, silver crescent moon buttons, gleaming like promises against the midnight blue fabric. It possesses sprezzatura, the stranger says, their voice filled with a quiet wonder. The word, a favorite among the courtly elite, means a kind of studied nonchalance, the art of making something incredibly difficult look effortless. It is the highest compliment a craftsman could receive. It means the stranger does not just see the beauty of the suit. They understand the immense skill concealed behind its simple elegance. Finally, a gloved hand reaches out and gently touches the sleeve of the doublet. Your work is as fine as the legends say, maestro. Kiar, the stranger turns their cowled head to you. Finer even, but I must ask, how did you do it such work in a single night? You feel the weariness of the long night settle upon you, but it is a good, satisfying weariness. You think of the moment of doubt and of the gentle, loving presence that came to your aid. I did not work alone, you say simply. The stranger seems to understand. They give a slow, respectful nod. The heart finds help in unexpected ways, the voice says. Now, tell me, who is the man fortunate enough to wear such a garment? You ask, your curiosity finally winning out. Is it for the Duke, a foreign prince? The cloaked figure turns to face you fully. The suit, the stranger says, is for me. And with that, their hands, still gloved, rise and slowly, deliberately pull back the heavy hood. You are prepared for anything. The face of a nobleman, a wealthy merchant, perhaps even a famous condottiero, a captain of mercenaries. You are not prepared for what you see. The face that is revealed is neither old nor young. It is carved with an ethereal, timeless beauty, and the skin seems to glow with a faint silvery light, as if lit from within, but it is the eyes that hold you captive. They are the same impossible, deep blue as the cloth, and within their depths you can see the same tiny, distant, glittering lights. You are not looking into the eyes of a man, you are looking into a clear, starlit night sky. You stumble back a step, your heart hammering in your chest, but there is no fear, only a profound, world-altering awe. The stranger smiles, a gentle, sad, and beautiful expression. My journeys are long, the celestial being says, their voice now seeming to hold the faint, musical chime of distant spheres. And my roads are not the dusty roads of Tuscany. I travel the dark paths between the worlds, the rivers of night that flow between the stars. You stare, speechless, trying to comprehend. The celestial being admired, the suit a masterpiece woven from twilight and human skill, a magic long forgotten. Antonio, the tailor, understood now that inspiration was not singular. It was a fusion of divine madness, timeless echoes, and careful craft. Gently, the being folded the suit into a simple linen bag, offering Antonio a bag of gold as small payment. But Antonio declined, saying the work itself was reward enough, a truth the being acknowledged as the mark of true masters. They parted, promising that Antonio's name would echo in distant, glittering realms beyond his imagining. As the being vanished into the bright Florentine morning, their dark cloak dissolving into light, Antonio sat alone with the gold, measurements for a man who never existed, and the faint scent of starlight. Weary but fulfilled, he sank into his chair. His finest creation was complete, his purpose quietly fulfilled. Sunlight warmed his workshop as the city's morning sounds lulled him. The vision of the celestial suit faded, a story finished, a masterpiece sealed. Peace embraced him, the peace of a life's work completed, with only breath's soft rhythm and well-earned rest remaining.